Hello, welcome back to All That Work for Nothing. And I feel like our name really feels very apropos right now in this moment in time. This is a episode that's going to be kind of call to action a little bit in light of recent events. We felt compelled to come on here and kind of just talk about things a little bit and what can we do going forward? Because, obviously things right now in our country are not great. I'm not going to beat around the bush. They're not good. They don't feel good. It feels like things have turned for the worse. It's crazy because the day that we're doing this, it's exactly a week since actual election day. And we were just talking about how last Tuesday was one of the worst days that we've experienced in a really long time, where we were having, we've talked about mental health on this episode, on this podcast before, and it was not a good day for either of us. The day of the election, the day after the election, when we found out the results, and then the day after that, I think were very, very low days for us. And then after that, we kind of realized, okay, we felt our feelings. We did all the things that we needed to do in order to feel those emotions. And now it's time for us to fight. And what does that look like? So we thought we would make a little episode to gather a community and figure out what the fuck to do to make sure that this country doesn't go to shit. I mean, it already has, but how can we take it back? And that's kind of what we're going to talk about today. So if you're interested, you're cool.
Yeah. First thing I have on here is shit sucks. So, that's a great way to start.
Yep.
Emblematic of the whole week, really.
Yeah. I mean, shit has sucked way longer than just a week. Things in this country have been going downhill for a very long time. And I think last week was kind of the peak, in my opinion. I think we, not just you and me, I feel a very different kind of vibe with people that we kind of need to, I feel a very different vibe than I did in 2016 when Trump was first elected. I feel like people kind of felt defeated and were just like, well, what am I going to do? I feel a very different kind of anger, but a good kind of anger. We're tired of billionaires running this fucking country, buying votes, and, exploiting people and taking money from them and blaming supply chain issues on corporations price gouging food and supplies that everyday people need. We have reached a peak of anger in this country, and I think around the world, where it's time for us to fight back. And what does that look like?
I think, you talked about it, the difference between good anger and kind of a duller anger. And what we've done and what we encourage everybody to do is to be involved in some sort of local activism or local politics.
Yeah.
As you can tell, Doral and I both kind of have at least an interest in politics, especially from a historical standpoint. So we called up some local institutions that are active in politics, and we asked what we could do to be involved. Most of these places, more people, so they'll be really happy that you called. Don't think you're burdening them. Don't think you don't belong, because you do. So Call, contribute whatever you can, however you can, and
it doesn't have to be monetary.
No, it really doesn't.
We need boots on the ground right now.
Your time is going to be the most important thing.
Right.
We're not going to be able to outspend people like Elon Musk, but we can outwork them. We really can. It's just going to take people kind of sacrificing a little, and that's okay. The way I kind of felt about this week is if you've ever had a family member who was sick and you were kind of waiting on a diagnosis, and the diagnosis could either be good or bad, and when you find out that it's bad, really the shock is dull, and the revelation and the understanding that your life is going to be different is what's really, really hurts. We've lived that. We have come to grips with the revelation that life is going to be different. I think what Doyle and I are really trying to emphasize to you is to take control of your new life. That this is a new life we have. This is not like 2016. There is no going back. There's only one way forward. Let's see. So, so happy.
Yeah.
Always stoked.
Yeah.
So a tactic that we are going to try to encourage other people with platforms like this to use to fight our shared enemy is going to be with a person like Trump. We've said like all sorts of things about him being a fascist, a racist, this, that, and that. Everybody knows that. Everybody who hasn't been hiding under a rock has heard these things about Trump. It is a waste of breath to keep calling him these things. And it's a waste of breath.
Because obviously it doesn't work.
It doesn't work. Everybody who voted for him has heard people call him that. They don't care. The only way that a person like Trump is going to lose any kind of power is by not mentioning him.
Yeah, and we kind of talked about how Trump and his ideology is kind of like a raging fire. And one way to put out a fire is to deplete it of oxygen. And by that we mean our breaths and our voices. So one thing that we will not be doing going forward is we will not be mentioning Trump anymore. This is our last time talking about him. I'm sure he's going to come up somehow. In some kind of way. And it's not going to become like a Voldemort situation where we're just like, he who shall not be named.
Right, no.
But we all know who the common enemy is.
Right. So like an example of going forward is like, let's say if Trump decides to execute his insane deportation plan. We won't rant and rave about how much this is Hitlerian. We won't rant and rave about Trump's this, Trump's that. What we'll do is we'll offer resources that you can utilize to fight back. We'll offer institutions that are trying to help in these, if that happens, that'll help prevent the damage of that from being more severe. We are not going to give him what he wants. And what he wants is good, bad attention.
Yes, and
he lives off of attention.
It also goes for the other people that follow him as well. I know that a lot of people love to debate these Trump people and get in fights with him in comments. The only thing that you really can do is ignore the crap out of them. Like we were saying, the only way to put out a fire is to deplete it of oxygen. They want you to react. They want you to be angry. The whole thing too is that what a lot of people don't realize, especially on the left, is that they want us to be factioned and fighting amongst ourselves, which we already are. That's not going to make change. That's not going to do anything. We need to figure out how we can work together to completely deplete this raging fucking forest fire that has caught the entire world on fire. So we need to come together and we need to fight the common enemy. And that is one of the only things we can do is literally just ignore them. Don't ignore their actions. Always fight back against their actions. But don't be reactionary to them, because that is just going to egg them on and they're just going to keep doing it. It's just not, we're just going to be in this really vicious cycle that we've been in since I was a kid, it feels like.
I mean, for a lot of people out there, this has been since they were kids.
I mean, I don't know. I feel like, since September 11th, things have been really bad, and they've just been getting worse.
I think it's because we're at the peak distraction. We have fought over race and gender, and we've fought over a lot of things that are important, but we have ignored to the delights of people doing the exploiting, billionaires, ruling classes of people. We have ignored what they've done to us. And
we've just allowed it to happen.
And that needs to stop.
Yeah.
So we're not going to all get along. We have no preconceived notions of us all linking hands and singing Kumbaya around a fire. We're going to argue.
But we all need to recognize who the enemy is.
Yes, you are not my enemy. If you are here listening to this podcast, most likely you are not my enemy. My enemy is a person who is just able to look the other way when people are dying all over the world And they have undoubtedly the capital, the power, the prestige, the name to change those things and choose not to for the point of making more money.
Yep.
Those are the people who are the enemy. We all know who that is. They've made themselves very clear. And that is who we're going to be fighting against. If you have a disagreement with us on our view of Ronald Reagan, or on our view of capitalism, on our view of American history, that's fine. That is totally fine. I hope we can come to an understanding of who we are trying to use those points against. I hope you see that person as an enemy the same way we do. So call us out if we don't do these things. If we start getting onto little tangents about how much we hate Trump and how much he's a dirty, rotten, orange fascist, then let us know, because it's an easy thing to do. Because I think we've felt like we're screaming at people, and it's so obvious to us. But apparently it's not obvious to the world. So we need a new tactic. And our tactic is to become firefighters.
Pretty much.
As you said. And we are fighting this fire by depleting it of any sort of oxygen.
Well, I'm not becoming a firefighter. I'm literally a suffocator. I'm taking my fire blanket and I'm putting the fire blanket on top of this fucking orange Cheeto fire.
Is that what we should do? We should get merch that's a fire suffocator.
Oh my god.
With a blanket over a burning Cheeto.
You know what? If we ever make merch, that would be hilarious.
Did anybody else burn Cheetos in school? Did you ever burn a Cheeto?
I never did that. I never did that, but I knew kids who did that, yeah.
Yeah, we burned the Cheeto to see how many calories it had. And it was quite surprising. Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
It was cool. So I think of that anytime.
Oh, I thought you meant that you just were in the cafeteria.
No.
And then kids were just lighting Cheetos on fire. I was like, no, I never did that.
You just had a bunch of pyros at your school? What else can we light on fire?
Yeah, they're teenagers, yeah.
No, baby, this is for science, okay?
Okay, so sorry. I'm sure that those kids who did that were like, it's for science. We wanted to see what would happen. Anyways, we're getting off base. Just one thing we want to make abundantly clear is that community is absolutely the most important thing right now. And if you feel like you don't have a community, find one. It's simple nowadays. We have the resources. We have social media. One of the best ways to find a community is through collective strife. We are actively doing that in our local community. We're trying to work with local political groups that we identify with, and we implore you to do the exact same thing. It's okay to get angry, but get angry in the right way. Make sure that your anger is going towards change. And so the best way you can do that right now is political activism locally and finding your community. And I think that those two together is how we're going to get through this. We are going to go back to work. We will also be uploading our Reagan Part 2 next week. But in the meantime, stay angry, but make sure your anger is going towards something for change. Anything else, babe?
I think that's it. Usually in times like this, I like to say everything's going to be okay or it's going to be fine. Can't promise you that, but just know that it's how fine it's going to be is entirely up to us.
Exactly. And with that, all I would like to say is the future is ahead of us.
Thank you all for watching.
We'll see you next week.
Tune in for Reagan Part 2.
Bye.